welcome back to another episode of the Blazer Victory Podcast. John Duncan here, and of course, I'm joined as always with my co-hosts Jimmy Marion and Darian Smith, and it is game week. In fact, game days, actually 2 days from recording. UAB will kick off the 2024 season against Alcorn State at Protective Stadium. So we hope everybody can make it down to Protective Stadium. But we'll get into that game preview a little later. As always, if you are not subscribed to our YouTube channel, go ahead and click that link in the top right now at Blazer Pod. Subscribe if you have not. I believe we're up to 225, so we gained a couple off of the last week's episode, so that is great.
Which hand do we need to point with?
I don't know which side they're gonna put us, but just do both to the sky. Hey, yeah, there you go. So yeah, we'll figure that out. But guys, seriously, if you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, do us a favor, do us a solid. Go ahead and do that, even if you're not gonna watch us. Just in your audio description, it's gonna be a link in there to subscribe to the YouTube. It just helps us out a lot growing this thing. Speaking of growing the Blazer Victory Podcast brand, let me share my screen because we have two great announcements. The first announcement, guys, give me a thumbs up if you can see. Okay. Thanks to the hard work of Mr. Jimmy Marion, we now have a store on our website where you can purchase Blazer Victory Podcast merchandise. So the website hasn't changed, blazervictory.com. You're going to go there and there's going to be a shop icon. You're going to click that and that will take you to our store. So you can purchase Blazer Victory Podcast gear, especially for the little ones. Ain't that right, Darian?
Oh yeah, I got a lot of those.
Well, I was gonna say, man.
It's a lot of little ones. We around that age, bro. And I know you guys want to support. That's a way to support. Put the baby. Everybody loves baby. You guys, we love the kids here.
We do love the kids.
Baby in the Blazer Victory onesie, and let's rock, man. Come on.
Let's go.
Y'all check out one of the newest items that we got that John is promoting on today's episode. Check out that trucker cap that Mr. John Duncan's got on. Look how sweet that hat is.
Nice.
John's repping it.
Yeah.
That's looking good. You're gonna see John Duncan at our events wearing that hat, rocking it. So it's gonna be real nice.
Yes.
Different colors. You got the black, the heather gray, I think is on there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Very doable price if you ask myself. So yeah, everything you guys do, listeners, now you can not just listen and support us in that way, but you can be rocking that BVP gear around town.
Let's go. Thanks to Jimmy for working hard, because I know this was a lot to get up, and thank you to Jimmy we finally got it up just in time for the season kickoff. So blazervictory.com.
Shout out to Natalie. Shout out to Natalie too, Jimmy's wife.
Yes, shout out to Natalie.
Shout out to the Marions over there. Just
there you go. So second announcement, really big announcement, Patreon. So, of course, we've always had, since we've been doing this for a year and a half or however long we've been doing the Patreon, it's been a $5 tier, BVP patron tier. Today, we introduced another tier, a second tier, BVP VIP tier for $10 a month. So the reason why we did this really quickly, we've had folks over the past few months especially say, hey, Darian, hey, John, hey, Jimmy, I want to give you guys more support. I want to give you more than $5 a month, basically. So this way, everything's still the same on the $5 tier. You will continue to get everything that you've been getting, continued exclusive content. But on this $10 tier, you're going to have access to our community chat, which is really cool. And I'm really excited to launch that now, especially. I think we already have 5 VIPs that switched over from the first tier to this VIP tier. But VIPs will be able to chat with each other and us through a community chat. It is important that you'll have to download the Patreon app, but you should already have that. But if you can go to the App Store, Google Store, download that, log in with your normal login. But this is going to be almost like a message board, a forum space for us and for y'all to communicate with each other during games. Like I've already got a chat set up for Alcorn State game, and it's already popping off right now. Got a couple responses, but this is just so awesome, for us to kind of continue to build this community of the Blazer Victory family. It's not just us; it's all of y'all. And we want to stress we are not taking away anything from the $5 tier. If y'all just want to sit at the $5 tier and continue to support us, that means the world to us. This is just for those that want to give more and also get that community chat space with us. But Darian, Jimmy, did I miss anything with that? Oh, and also before I throw it to y'all, you can switch in your Patreon settings. So if you want today to switch from just the BVP Patreon $5 tier to the BVP VIP tier, you can do that right within your Patreon app. So it's really easy to switch if you want to. And hey, if it sucks, if you're like a few months from now, you're like, man, I ain't no VIP. I want to go back down to the Patreon, or switch back over to the Patreon. Just do $5. You can do like 1 month, $10, $1. You could switch up and between those two tiers if you want to. But I mean, this means the world to us. Like we've already had 5 people switch
within like
to the
an hour.
VIP within an hour. I mean, yeah, it's less than an hour. Yeah. So, but did I miss anything, guys, that we want to say about the Patreon?
No, like you said, this is just a way to support us. It's supporting the show. But it really is supporting us individually, because we don't really have any, as of right now, there's no big plans to do it as a transparency. There's no big plans with the money that we do get from Patreon. I don't think these guys mind me talking about it. And I just want to be transparent with y'all. There's no big plans with that money or whatever. So it's really just supporting us right now individually until we do figure out something that we want to do. I mean, because we do put our time, we have shower thoughts. We sit down and we got to book these people, and John is traveling and doing interviews, and Jimmy is putting this story together. We sit down, we look at film, we go over rosters, we go over transcripts. So we do things to try to earn the money that you guys are giving us. And so a lot, like John said, a lot of people's like, man, $5 is too cheap. Like, y'all should have did this, but we wanted to earn your money. I really don't want to be like, hey, we need to give more to NIL. We need to, I know we see that a lot. And I see a lot of people like, hey, man, I'm burnt out. I don't have anything to give, man. Like, Jesus Christ, like everything, taxes is high, food is high. And if you don't have the money, stop badgering people. We didn't want to badger you guys just to say, hey, we're going to raise the prices, because some people say we should, and we appreciate that, but we still wanted to offer something to earn the money, and then give you guys the option to say, hey, if you don't want that, stay at the $5. If $5 a month is too much, we do the free show, right? So we really do this for the green and gold. That's it. So just a disclaimer. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, John and Darren hit on some really good points. Just to kind of wrap this part of it up quickly, is that first and foremost, we wanted to solve a problem. People were saying, hey, how do we continue to support? We didn't want to just throw a link on to a Venmo Cash App thing and say, well, here's how you can donate more money to us. We could have done that. We wanted to bring something of value. Darian mentioned value. And so we were able to introduce this as a new feature and test it out some. Like, we've already got a chat here I'm looking right now, and I think this is great because during the week when we have an Alcorn State community chat, we've already had questions proposed where it's like, hey, what kind of questions do y'all want us to ask anything on the show, or talk about anything like on particular, like on the show? You can see who else is also, before you're just you're receiving the episodes, you may not know who else is a patron supporter, but now you're seeing people's names on here like, oh, who is this? Like, Matt is asking this question, he wants to talk about this. And during the game, you're looking just to connect with some other people. So anyways, we think it's going to add some value. And to John's point, if it doesn't, like, let us know what are the features that you want from us. Like, that's so important to us, is that you're getting the content that you want. We can make all of these assumptions all day long, but you, the listener, are the reasons why we're doing this. And so we appreciate the feedback, good, bad, or indifferent. And so just communicate with us. Just let us know what you feel, what you think. And we appreciate every ounce of support that you guys will give to us. Even if you don't support the Patreon, all that's fine. We don't care. Like, we appreciate you listening right here and giving us that thumbs up, or subscribing to the episode, or to the YouTube, or just interacting with us on Twitter or whatever. Like, you don't have to give us money at all. But for those of you that do have the resource and that wish to do so, we just want to provide those options. So anyways, with all that being said, we appreciate y'all. Let's talk about some damn football.
Make sure y'all turn those chat notifications, and I'll turn those notifications on, because it may be during the game. John may be like, hey, check out number 97. He's coming out there. He's been giving such problems. That's something we're going to keep an eye on. We're going to keep it interactive during the games, so y'all can probably keep an eye on some of the things that we're going to keep an eye on. You know, as we watch, I might throw a little something in there. Just check this out a little bit. If y'all like that, we can kind of connect more on that level. So just make sure you have the notifications on. If you're going to pay for it, let's use it. Let's use it the right way.
Ain't that the truth, bro? I appreciate you saying that. And one last thing, too, on the Patreon, again, patreon.com/blazerpod. You can still save 10% annually on that plan, too. So if you want to, go to the VIP plan for a full year, hey, take advantage of that 10% off. That helps you so much. But what Jimmy said, enough talk about the Patreon. Let's talk some ball. And before we get into previewing Alcorn State, the 2-deep depth chart came out yesterday, Monday. Y'all see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sweet. So, and also shout out, this picture is from Lucas Gray. Hey, shout out Lucas, the new UAB football beat writer for AL.com. Already, I saw he was at the presser. Shout out, already doing good things, posting this picture of the 2-deep. But we're excited to see, what Lucas does with AL.com as the UAB football beat writer. So check him out and follow him on Twitter, if you have not already. Guy, right? Yeah, he is. I think he's a senior. I believe he's still he's a senior, so he's about to graduate, but already doing big things. Shoot,
already, man. Hey, congratulations to you, Lucas. We support you here at BVP full-heartedly, man. We hope to get some good articles out of you.
Yes, and
follow Lucas on X, Lucas G Beham, BHAM. Follow Lucas on X. He's already posted some good stuff. He's a UAB and what appears to be a Birmingham, just in general, sports fan. So, you're not going to get just the copy and paste content. You're going to get, that real emotion, that real fan perspective, which I'm very excited about.
100%. And I know that he listens to the Blazer Victory podcast. We've had some discussions in fall camp. So really good guy, solid. Recommend Lucas Gray. Follow him right now. And we might have to have him on the show, coming up. So that was released. Darian, what are just your initial observations looking at the 2D? Was there any surprise or concerns looking at the 2D?
Well, I think it is kind of like when you first look at it, it is kind of like, oh man, because we recruited a lot of these transfer portal guys, and then if we're looking at say we're looking at cornerback right there where Ricky Lee is starting. If you scroll down, then we have Kevin Hill, and we talked a lot about Troy Jacobet. It's not even an or right there. It has him just third. I'm just like, oh man, and I go back to the other side of cornerback. The other guy we got from Minnesota, Tariq Watson, right there. You got Kobe Dempsey, and then you have Cy McDaniel, who is a guy I saw in person. Who has grown. The coaches have mentioned him before. He was a walk-on. I don't know if he's earned a scholarship as of now, whatnot. He's a big, good-looking guy. I saw him in person. I actually talked to him. Nice kid. But he's ahead. Well, it has or right there, but they have him right there with Tariq Watson and Nasir Bashir, which I talked to Nasir's people too. It is surprising because those guys are, walk-ons. But one thing that I went back and I looked at, shout out to Steve Irvine. I went to the banner, went to this article. He did that Q&A, and I went back to that Q&A, and Trent did say that a lot of the 3s and 2Bs that they have developed a lot rapidly a lot more rapidly than they thought. It's been fast. It's been a fast process, and he said they've really been pushing out ones and 2As. He said there's been a lot more competition. So what this is showing me is what he was saying. Like Kevin Hill, I saw the clip on UAB football they posted in their stories. Him and Xavier Daisy, in which Trent mentioned Xavier Daisy, a receiver as well, as a guy that he felt like could. He is right here, wide receiver, 6'3", 210. He's a big dude. First of all, I didn't know he was that big. Let's just start there. But he mentioned him as somebody he can see that can contribute immediately. They wasn't on the BVP's radar. It wasn't on Darian, Jimmy's, or John's. And then I see that clip and I saw them two go at it. I was like, damn, those two look like dudes, So that's gonna be the first question asked. I mean, not answered, not asked. How good were the transfers? And a lot of times the 2 deep, take the 2 deep at face value. I can't tell you how many times last year we put out a 2 deep. I stopped paying attention to the 2 deep because I was like, man, it's not even updated. Like, I don't know what this is talking about. It didn't reflect what was put out on the field. So take it at face value. But I'm anxious to see, like, how many of these guys is Cy McDaniel really good? How good is a Kevin Hill? How good, and we're going to get to this part, how good is a Brandon Franklin? Who had Brandon Franklin on their bingo card, to be behind Michael Moore and middle linebacker? Good kid, nice size, 6'1", 230, big kid. If you see him, I've seen him in some practice. I didn't have that on my bingo card. It was another guy that was a walk-on. Jason Rouse behind OC Brothers is a walk-on. Mind you, when you look at the defense, you have one position that's going to be not on the field. So either probably the Mike linebacker would be off the field if Adrian Maddox is on the field, maybe OC Brothers is off, because you can't start 2 safeties, a star, and 3 linebackers. It's just in 4 defensive linemen, just for people to know, So it's going to be some kind of variance there. I hate when they do 2 deeps like this because it's kind of hard to read and it's kind of confusing. But yeah, it is surprising seeing some of the walk-ons be listed on the 2 deep. So, guys, I guess that's the first question that's going to be answered for me, because it can cause a little, not just like anxiety, like, are we really as good as we said we were? But at my daughter's volleyball game, I talked to one of the team doctors that's always with the team. He's like, man, the vibe is really good. Like, they look good. Like, and I've consistently gotten that same thing from everybody I've talked to, whether it's a player, whether it's a coach, whether it's a team doctor, whether it's somebody that just kind of frequent the they're like, oh man, like it feel good, the vibe is good, the talent is up, like they look bigger, everybody's saying the same thing. So I'm like, I'm listening. I'm in Briarwood watching my daughter play. His daughter played at Briarwood. He didn't have a reason to lie to me. So I'm feeling cautiously optimistic, but I really want to see that question. I want to see that answered. And it's not going to be answered all at Alcorn. We're going to see a preview. And later on, because I need to pass, because I'm rambling, but I need to tell y'all what I'll be looking for Alcorn. But we're not going to have that question answered until maybe 2, 3, 4 games down the line about the true depth of this team. But maybe those walk-ons develop. Maybe we have a good developing staff here. And we saw what Jason Rouse did against North Texas when he got his opportunity to do. It was a tackling machine. So I'm curious.
Real quick, Darren, just to, you talk about the walk-ons and young guys hopefully being depth pieces and improving. I really really liked what Trent said at the presser for the Alcorn State game yesterday. He said, when you bring in all these talented transfers like a Jackie Beck or everybody, high talent transfers in, it just makes the guys that are already on the team, the younger guys, work harder and improve. And
Great
I
point.
really
Great.
loved Chris Bracey was a really good example, and what he mentioned on the presser. Seeing him starting this strong safety, at Chris Bracey. But Jimmy, what are just your initial when you first glance at this two deep?
Kind of going defense, and we can talk about offense. Is the safety position, one could certainly argue is the most improved all around outside of maybe defensive line, which I'll talk about in a second. I really like what the UAB staff has done specifically at safety in comparison this past year, and so the depth chart looks really solid there. Darian's already touched base on Jack Ubeck and Cy McDaniel as it relates to cornerback. That'll be interesting to watch, and the emergence of a Kelvin Hill. Really excited to see what he's able to do. Linebacker, that was a thought as well, is just the depth behind the starters. I think we're super top heavy at that linebacker position. It'll be interesting to see the combination of a McNichols as a true freshman as well as the few walk-ons that are in the two deep, how ready they are to contribute. Riles being a Jimmy Marion favorite. We'll see how he does. Interior defensive line, one thing that stood out to me was how you have Merriweather and Smalls that are at, call it, third in the pecking order. And these are guys that we were really relying on this past season. They even got a start here and there. Smalls dealt with injuries, or he may have played even more. But these are guys that we are really having to rely on heavily, and we're going to rely on them again this season too. But just the depth that's been added with that, guys from P4, programs with a Shepherd and with DeMarcus Smith, like there's a lot of improvement and a lot more pieces at the defensive line, which is going to be absolutely critical for this UAB defense. So that stood out. On the offensive side, one thing I was pleased to see at the offensive line was the projected starters going into fall camp pretty much held on to their starting roles throughout fall camp. We've heard a lot of great things about the tackle positions in particular. A guy like Badowski, who was a starter last year before injury, is now likely going to be, your sixth guy or your seventh guy in the rotation. So that speaks to the depth that the offensive line has established. A guy like Baron Franks, who came in a little bit late, who has many starts under his belt at Norfolk State, is likely going to be, call it your sixth or seventh guy as well. So I was just really pleased to see that offensive line right now is healthy, all things considered. The starters, that chemistry that you want, they held on to those positions despite those battles all throughout fall camp, which I think is great. So I feel a little bit better about that position. Wide receiver, I thought it was interesting how essentially if you are on the two deep at receiver, you are a projected possible starter. So to me, take that with a grain of salt. You look at those top three at like the A receiver position with Thomas, Shanks, Hooks, you would think that there's probably like a clear line between that group and like a Roger. So not quite sure where everything will shake out. But a guy like Thomas in particular, I think it was last year, Dilfer was just praising how Amari Thomas can really play all three positions. So that versatility is going to come into play. It is definitely my hope that you're going to see an Amari, Shanks, or Hooks, two out of those three guys on the field a lot, based on just their impact and what we know they're capable of. But yeah, so those are some of my observations. Still, despite even what we talked about at linebacker, overall, this is definitely a much deeper team on paper, a much more talented team on paper. And if we can stay relatively healthy, and if those walk-ons and true freshmen at that linebacker position can come into the fold and play and contribute at a meaningful level, like this is a much improved roster. Just quick note on special teams, it looks like Jonah DeLange did hold on to that primary kicker role, but our guy, the 38 special, Noah Grant, won that kickoff battle, which is going to help with that field position. I know Coach Trent Dilfer was talking about the field position battle on the coach's show last night and how important that is. And then from a return standpoint, Armani Goodwin potentially returning kicks. His impact there on that special teams, I think, is going to be exciting. Just to get the ball in his hands in whatever way that you can. But yeah, those are at least some of my thoughts as it relates to the depth chart.
Hey,
Yeah,
John, I just realized as Jimmy was talking through it, they didn't name any kind of starter at receiver. There's no
Isn't that
starter.
crazy?
No, they just
Yeah,
yeah.
all of it.
Because they all can play.
Yeah.
Like they are all like talent, like wide receiver. I'm not worried at all. And even tight end too. I'm not worried.
Yeah.
Like offense. Now I was gonna say that something that we haven't mentioned that I saw. I think it was on Twitter or X. Some UAB fans questioning. They seem surprised to see Jalen Kitna at the 2 for quarterback. I mean, if you've been to practice, like it's
You
Jalen
were calling that a
Kitna.
long time ago, John. I remember
Yeah,
early you were on that. So
yeah, he's the clear number 2 as of right now. I still love Adrian Posse. Shout out. I think he is. And then we got another Kitna coming in. Hey, UAB will be solid at quarterback position.
what about the guy we're missing at receiver? We shouldn't glance over that. I don't know if we know Yusuf Terry. Like he's not in the too deep. He's someone that came in late, transferred from South Florida, had the Jacob Zeno connection at Baylor, senior. I think he's dealing with something minor. We haven't heard anything major, so maybe they're just holding him out of a game like this, John, potentially, you think?
Yeah, I mean, you worry with, like a late transfer. I don't know what the deal is, but you maybe like nicked up, and Trent's mentioned that they've had a few guys kind of get wear and tear, nicked up a little bit. So maybe that's a possibility to why we don't see use of Terry. Maybe he's just maybe dealing with something. But as far as Darian said it earlier, we don't need to overreact to the too deep. It's just something to talk about.
How
But
about how
especially
about
that,
the kick return, John?
yeah, kick
It's,
return.
it's,
Hey,
he's trying to get the ball into one of the running backs' hands. We have 3 of them. You can tell he's trying to manufacture ways like, hey, just put Isaiah Jacobs. Who would think of Isaiah Jacobs as a return guy? But it's like, hey, we got 3 of them. We need to figure out something to put the ball in their hands. Lee BB, you get back there. So
hmm
it's pretty funny to see that we're trying to manufacture ways so the running backs can touch the ball.
100%. Yeah, and hey, don't forget about Solomon BB too. Like, we talk a lot about like 4 running backs. I mean, this is 5 running backs. Like that room is loaded. Like I think UAB has the most talented running back room in the G5, but if not the nation too. Like they are so loaded at that position. And don't forget about a Lee Witherspoon too. I mean, they are so loaded and ready to prove themselves this year. But guys, that's enough of the too deep. We need to move along in previewing this matchup with UAB and Alcorn State this Thursday, 7 p.m. Central Time. At Protector Stadium. We hope to see you all there, but if you can't make it, the game is going to be streamed on ESPN Plus. This is only the second time these 2 programs have met on the football field. UAB won it some years ago. But Alcorn State, man, I mean, you guys heard it at the presser. BJ talked about Alcorn State with us on the Patreon. Again, if you're not a Patreon, subscribe and hear that almost 30-minute interview. BJ is incredible, and we will continue to have him on the show. But this team is picked to be in that SWAC championship at the end of the year, representing their was it the West Division, I believe. Representing that side in the SWAC championship. We know there's a lot of turnover from this 2023 season to the 2024 season for Alcorn. They lose their stud running back, who I believe is playing for the Green Bay Packers right now. But also they lose their quarterback, Allen. There is, BJ told us that is some high expectations for the quarterback who played a little bit last year. Let me get his name.
Tyler Macon.
Tyler Macon, yes. And there are, I think even Trent at his presser kind of spoke highly about him, working with him at Elite 11. So this is a talented roster. It's just kind of some new guys. They've added a lot from JUCO. and transfers. But really a good SWAC team, a good FCS team. So I do think that they are better than what UAB played. Started the season last year with North Carolina A&T. But Darian, what pops off to you when you kind of look at this? And again, it's game one. We don't have film to go over except for some of those guys that are returning from last year's team. You got a new head coach, Cedric Thomas, being elevated from, I think he was the defensive coordinator, being elevated to that head coaching position. But Darian, what kind of pops off to you like when you study or look at this 2024 Alcorn State team?
Well, that's the thing. It's hard. I was trying to like study and look at film, but you don't, with it being game one and with Alcorn being a SWAC team, it's hard to find. Like I wish I could find like a too deep for them. That way I could study like who's returning. I couldn't really find a too deep, so I don't know who's gonna be back, especially with the attrition on the roster with a head coach coming in. I'm trying to look at the meat, bones, and potatoes. I try to get down to it and see like what offensive linemen are coming back. What defensive linemen besides Malachi Bailey is coming back. We know Bailey is coming back off the edge, and he put a pretty impressive stats. His sack total was pretty nice. I think it was over his career is like 19.5 or something like that, almost 20 sacks. He was first team all SWAC, and they also have a tight end, was it Tavarius Griffin, that was first team all SWAC. But then you kind of look at the context of it. It's like, okay, what are we comparing it to, right? Because they've had DJ even talked about it. So if you guys, all the Patreon members, you can pay $10 now for the VIP, $5 for the regular access. But BJ did a great job of telling us about like, hey, but in the West, they're picked to finish first in the SWAC West. But that comes with the asterisk in the sense that a lot of teams are replacing head coaches in that same division. Like the majority of the teams are, I believe, like 5 out of the 7 of the teams are. And so if you got 5 out of 7 teams replacing head coaches, which leads to a whole bunch of roster turnover, you have to pick somebody, right, to win the SWAC. So like Tavarius Griffin, I really I couldn't see like a game or anything like that because I only like watched some of 2 games. But I mean, he had like 300 and something yards, 325 yards, and like 4 touchdowns. Like that's not like Brock Bauer, like, you know what I'm saying? It was first team all SWAC, but what are we really looking at? For what it's worth, I do believe Malachi Bailey is the real deal. I really do, coming off the edge. I love that because we get to see with Jandarius Morgan, we get to see DJ Jones, both new tackles for us this year. We get to see how legit they are because I feel like that's a player that could play. That's something that can translate, right? Like we can apply that for all the games. Now, the rest of the players, I don't know because I don't even know who's going to be on the field for them. So this is what I'm looking at. So what I'm going to be looking for, very simple. Strength, speed, and how sound. All of it how we are. So it's not going to really have too much to do with Alcorn because I don't know about them. I can only find out about them when the game starts. But if you watch that Georgia Tech versus Florida State game, I started scratching my head a little bit and I started wondering because Georgia Tech was kind of pushing Florida State around. If you remember last year, Florida State pushed everybody. Their defensive line, Jerry Verse, and the other guy they had, I can't remember the defensive tackle. They had so many guys that was just like powerful, fast, quick. That defensive line was nothing to play with. I was like, Jesus Christ, these dudes are monsters. This year, I was like, it was kind of head scratching because they was trying to hype them up. They was trying to like, oh, they did a good job replacing. No, they didn't. They didn't have the same dogs that they had, and Georgia Tech offensive line pushed them around. They created running lanes. They couldn't get consistent pressure on the quarterback, and Georgia Tech won the game versus the quote-unquote top 10 better team. Georgia Tech looked like the better team. Better quarterback, better offensive line, better defensive line. What I'm going to be looking at, let's exclude the skilled players. Jimmy said it, Trent said it. We said that we had more improvement and depth in that defensive line. Last year, if you go back to that game last year when we played against A&T, that front seven, we was kind of like our front seven. We was looking, it was like, guys,
who was that kid? It was an App State transfer. He was playing for North Carolina A&T, but he was kind of getting in that backfield early. And we were like, uh-oh.
But even think about our defensive line. We was like, all right, yeah, we finna go out here and we're gonna. It was kind of like, I mean, it was kind of shaky. It was like they were running the ball on us. They were pushing us back.
They moved that ball, like, yeah.
If anything, like we had guys make plays, or we had scheme. Like scheme got us open, and or our skill players were good. What I want to see, forget all of that. Is our defensive line going to get back there and just be as savage and get back to the quarterback? Are they going to stop the run? I want to see 4 defensive linemen and 2 linebackers stop the run. Yeah, because y'all just dogs. That's what I want to see. I want to see physical play. I want to see on the offensive line. Yeah, last year we had Skull, and yeah, they can just make plays and make something happen. They can get out of tackle too, and they can get off. Cool, they did all of that. Yeah, we got Jacob Zeno, and we got all the motion offense, and everybody can do all that. Hand the ball off zone, go 50 yards. Hand the ball off 10 yards, 7 yards, 7 yards, 13 yards. That's what I want to see. And I want to see those yards. I don't want to see the running back get touched until they 5, 7, 10 yards down the field. That's dominance. That is a good floor. If you want to know what your team is going to look like, a floor for the team, offensive, defensive line, that front seven and that offensive line, that is going to be the man. That's the only thing I'm really looking at. We know with Brandon Buckhalter, we give it to him. We know what he can do. We know what Jacob Zeno can do. We need to be to make plays. And guess what? Sometimes they have players on that team too. Sometimes those guys are going to make plays. Like, you can throw the ball up. We play football. Maybe they catch a ball here. You know what I'm saying? That stuff will happen. But it don't. I'm an offensive line. It don't work like that on offensive line. A guy's just not going to make a play like, oh, it's just football. No, you got to go push me down. If not, I'm going to bully you the whole game, and I'm going to talk trash to you the whole game. Can we do that to them? Can we bully them? Will DJ Jones bully Malachi Bailey? Will he? That's tough to do. But that's the only parameter we have. So I'm going to be looking at that above anything else. And then can guys make plays off the back of how physical? Because the one word I kept hearing, we're aggressive this year. We're so aggressive. Man, we're aggressive. Well, all right, here we go. If we come down there and we don't look aggressive, I'm going to look at John. It looked like last year. So we'll get to see early. Just look at the line play. Just look at the physicality play. Look at how we perform on 3rd and 4s. If we can just be physical, if they got guys and sound, hat on the hat, if we can be physical and sound, my optimism is really going to rise for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I think, that's some really good analysis. I think it's going to come down to, in this ball game, we talked to BJ Jones about it. I mean, offensively for Alcorn State, they lost so much of their production. They lost their quarterback. They lost the running back that John had referenced earlier. They lost their top receiver. They just lose so many pieces on the offensive side, and they're elevating their defensive coordinator from this past year. So one would think he's a defensive-minded guy. We mentioned Malachi Bailey, so he was able to return some guys on the defensive side. And Trent Dilfer gave Cedric Thomas and the defense some credit schematically, talking about the way that they're able to get creative and that they will cause some problems. And so, but when you look at this, UAB's got a very good offense, and North Carolina A&T, their strength on paper is going to be their defense. On the flip side, UAB on paper and what we saw in year one had a struggling defense, and then And then, Alcorn State has got an offense that does not appear to be good on paper right now. We don't know. It's game one. So first thing I'll say is that if UAB defense gives up too many points to Alcorn State offense, that's going to be something right there, man. Like UAB defensively, I think needs to make a statement or has the opportunity, let me phrase that, to make a statement in game one. They only allowed, I think it was 6 points to NC-A&T this past year. I really want to see that UAB defense get after this inexperienced Alcorn State offense in game one. And then on the offensive side of the ball, if we do struggle a little bit, I'm going to keep in mind that the strength of this Alcorn State team is that defensive side. I still expect the UAB offense to cook, in this ball game. But those are things I'm looking at. And I want to say this. Game one, what's one thing I'm looking at is second half adjustments. How does UAB perform in the second half in this ball game? Because last year, second halves were problematic. If UAB comes out in the first half and, is up 21-3, but in the second half they give up 14, 17 points to Alcorn State, that's going to make me think a little bit about this depth that we're talking about. It's going to make me think about the second half adjustment. So I want to see in the second half, I want to see UAB lock in at halftime, and I want to see them, if they're successful in the first half, then to continue to lock in until the last minute. So those are things I'm looking at in this ball game. Hopefully it's an opportunity where it's not close. We respect Alcorn State. We had one of the questions I asked BJ Jones was, are John and Darian and I, is there an opportunity where we are sweating in the fourth quarter? We didn't necessarily sweat it against North Carolina A&T, but is there an opportunity for us to sweat it out? I sure hope not. But hopefully this is a game that UAB football can win comfortably.
Yeah, 100%. Well said, both of y'all. I just wanted to reiterate Malachi Bailey, 44 for Alcorn State. I think he could play in this league. Like that dude is good. And in fact, there might have been a few G5 teams maybe kind of fishing around and poking around and see if he would have any interest. But
is he the Trey Moore of the SWAC? Is that who he is?
I think so, man. Like, you go on YouTube, just type in Malachi Bailey highlights, and that dude can play. He had a good game last year against Southern Miss, I think it was. But yeah, dude's a stud. 44. That is one person to watch out for on this Alcorn State team.
One guy we didn't mention before we hop is Edwin Summer. I think it's Summer Maurer. He's a 5'11", 180-pound redshirt senior DB. In 2023, he had 63 tackles and 2 picks. So again, don't be surprised. This Alcorn State defense has some dudes on defense. They did lose a linebacker, I think it was, to Western Kentucky via the transfer portal. But kudos to this Alcorn State staff for keeping Malachi Bailey at Alcorn State, for keeping the guy that I just mentioned here. That's big time. And so I expect them to potentially try to give us some trouble, give us some looks. And so keep that in mind. But again, the offensive side of the ball, going to walk away pretty concerned if the UAB defense cannot keep Alcorn State at a low point total.
And then I want to just make it clear, like, I understand that the offense can take a little while to get started because they do have dudes on defense, but it's the way that may happen. If it's like scheme-wise and then they're competing and stuff, that's cool. If they're kind of bullying us and we can't run the ball, that's a whole different story. And if I see that, I'm going to get worried. The second quick nugget, we have another team playing Thursday that's playing the SWAC team that's pretty comparable to Alcorn, and that is ULM. They're playing the same time. They're playing Jackson State. Jackson State and Alcorn are rivals. They go at it. I think Alcorn beat Jackson State last year, 28-24. It was one of those tight games. So if we want to talk about, and Jackson State is one of those teams that's always going to be at the top of the SWAC. I'm going to have my eyes on that game too. So when we finish up and we do everything here, I'm going to go back and watch that game. And that's going to be interesting. I love the comp. I don't know if the schedules are set up that way on purpose. So I don't know, but that's going to be that's a good barometer to see where we're heading into, assuming that we get the win. I don't want to disrespect or look over Alcorn because things happen. This is football. But as I look at this roster and I look at the film and everything, I'm like, dude, we should win comfortably. So, yeah, I just want to throw in that nugget about ULM and want our listeners to keep an eye out on that score.
Jimmy, you had one last thought before we give predictions?
Yeah, I always like to look at the local flavor. North Carolina A&T had a Pinson Valley guy at running back last year. Alcorn State does have I think it's a true freshman receiver from Gardendale High School, Birmingham, Alabama guy. He's a 6'2", 190 wide receiver, number 81, David Quates III. So, he's going to have some family and some friends there. And speaking of that, BJ had told us that Alcorn State's got a decent contingency and alumni base here in the Birmingham area. It's not a super easy game to travel for their fan base. It's on a Thursday, so I'm sure they'd be rocking it even more on a Saturday. But quick shout out to Alcorn State football fans that choose to listen to this episode today. We hope you have a great trip to Birmingham, that you have a great time at Protective Stadium. Enjoy yourself. But yeah, I just wanted to say that there's at least one guy on the Alcorn State roster that's from Birmingham.
My baby was born in Natchez, Mississippi. Natchez is right up the street from Alcorn. I've been to Alcorn plenty of times. I'm from Mississippi, right? I've been to Alcorn many a times. It is booming there. It's so many people that are Alcorn fans. My family was Jackson State. I've been to all of the Jackson State Alcorn games. You know what Alcorn has that's like one of the best in college football? And that is the band. So Alcorn's band will be there. It will be rocking. BJ, I hate that I missed it. He talked about the people at Alcorn, how they're the nicest people, and they're gonna talk a little trash, but it's that Southern Mississippi fun trash, right? Like, they make sure you eat. They gonna dance. You're gonna have a good time. The band is gonna be rocking. I love my Alcorn people. It's one of the best fan bases you can find. Because, like I said, I went to all the Jackson State Alcorn games. It was so intense. I loved it. I have so much to say. We need to go ahead hop. But the Alcorn fan base, they are wonderful. You guys will love them.
And real quick, BJ, after our interview that night, he sent me some YouTube videos. I'm super jealous of that game day atmosphere. Like all the tailgating, like all the cars lined up miles down the interstate, not even on campus, to go to that game. I think it was against Jackson State, but super jealous of the vibes and game day atmosphere that they have at Alcorn State. Now, if you're an Alcorn State fan listening, you might want to dip right now because we are going to do game predictions, and I will start it off. Guys, what an opportunity for Trent Dilfer and this team to make a statement and have all the things that Darian mentioned, showcased offensive ability, defensively dominate, hopefully, against a probably struggling offensive team from Alcorn State, who took almost halfway, 3/4 of the season last year to kind of get it together on offense. So I will predict UAB makes that statement. First game of the season, UAB 45-10 over Alcorn State, and that would be great. Like I hope it's like 38-0 going into the fourth quarter, and we will be relieved. Hell, we might even start the game, the post game during the fourth quarter, depending on how it is. Hopefully, it's not raining. But Darian, what are your official game predictions for the Alcorn State UAB?
Yeah, I'm in that same line of thinking because I'm thinking about our defensive line. I'm thinking about our offensive line. If our improvements, I'm not really thinking about no other position, you guys. Those are, and I'm looking at linebacker. That's part of the front seven, right? For defense. And with everything else we have surrounding that, 41-10, especially if the rain really doesn't affect, because sometimes it can get messy and real, just like turnovers, just sloppy. But with their inexperienced offense, we should force at least 2 turnovers. Well, that's what I'm not going to say should, because turnovers are one of those things, but I mean, that's kind of what I'm going to be looking to. Like, we should get an interception, or something like that, and get some good field position, get an easy touchdown. So, Noah Grant, 38 special, is not giving up any kind of field position, baby, So, I go 41-10 UAB, especially if it doesn't rain.
Hey, predictions. The good Lord's going to keep the rain away. No rain, and UAB wins running away. UAB 38, Alcorn State 10. We all said Alcorn State 10, so that's the magic number for you bettors out there.
You sickos. I love it. Love it. Hey, well, hopefully, we'll be back on the Blazer Victory podcast free feed post game. I don't know if we're going to do it that night or maybe Friday morning, but we'll let you know on Twitter. So follow us on Twitter at BlazerPod. Again, Patreon. Join the Blazer Victory podcast Patreon, patreon.com/BlazerPod. Join that VIP tier. Don't forget to save 10% annually. And also, I think I mentioned earlier, but you also get a 10% off coupon code to use on the Blazer Victory store. So again, check out the store, blazervictory.com. Jimmy worked hard. And Jimmy, go ahead and send us out until next time.
Blazer fans, it's football season. Let's get this dub. Go Blazers.